you've said many times and in many different ways that we're all on our own path. We all have our own agreement.
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
Not quite a maybe, but yes and no.
All right. And I think early on, at points along the way, the question comes up, why this? Why me? What's going on?
What's this? What do you mean the this? Why this?
Well, like, why this situation? Why this particular sensation? Why this discomfort? Why this view?
Why this discomfort? Why this view? Whose view? Whose? Who's discomforted? Where's the discomfort? What is it? How do you get to the conclusion that this discomfort, what does that mean? You're feeling discomfort with yourself, your cameras, your seat. Is it the lights? Is it your mind? Right? Your worries? Yourself? Which one of those could it be?
And then the next question, do I need more? Or can I stop now? If so, how? If so, why?
How long have you had this problem? You can stop anytime you want. Maybe you've already stopped. Really depends upon how deep anyone can go to know. See, how deep anyone wants to be. Not even know, wants to be. Okay?
Are those questions, and is that particular kind of wondering, searching perspective already, and
Well, who's searching what? Who is searching for what? The perfect companion? A perfect mate, so to speak? A perfect other? It's pretty natural instinct. The mating instinct. Depends on what species you want to mate with, right? What is stop? What is go? What are you when you take on the doubts of your friends? You chew on their skepticism as if it's a real issue. Like a very old candy bar.
What does it take? Is it a situational change? Is it a inward change to actually get to feel some perspective minus other people's whatever? Do you have to go to a monastery to get some relief?
Maybe some do. Right. Or just have access to a deeper state of consciousness. Something that's true for you. What deepness is true for you, apart from your connections with other beings? The question is, how much does one know they need to share? Without tipping their balance or going overboard in some way or other, that leaves them feeling imbalanced and thus insecure, and uncertain, and confused, and so on. So the higher recommendation for all beings is just to stop. Perhaps in the process of this stopping, things settle down. If you stop correctly, then things settle down, right? Like a tuning fork, boom, Comes to peace, comes to rest. There seems to be an opportunity in that cessation to see more clearly what it is. The real question is anyone ready to see, let alone stop to see what it could be for themselves? See? That is implying that would the blood karma behind the individual be willing to settle? Would the ancestral line be willing to let the individual settle? Would the spirits allow the individual to have some peace of mind or not? Maybe the individual hasn't paid its dues yet. And so it needs guidance in a case like that, to even know that there are dues to pay, to appease the ancestral restlessness, which of course is part of the individual. But they may not know anything like that. And then the peace could come in a snap. It's not about searching. Most people are not searching for what they don't know. Okay. Or what they never experienced or know about. See? So when we speak about the universal idea of the spiritual, we have to equate that with peace. See? Not as an effect, but as source. So people are restless and confused because they've agreed to be that way. They should enjoy it until maybe the program burns out. Or they know better and they disagree with the disagreement and go deeper. Then it becomes a question of how deep is anyone willing to go to get to source, get to the core of their own being, find out what that is. The danger, of course, is that you might have to go beyond the influences you depend upon as crutches for your support. Props. You have to go beyond your props. And that means your insecurities, self-created insecurities at that. Psychological insecurities, self-image insecurities, self-image concerns. Am I man enough? Am I woman enough? Am I sure about that? Am I still confused about that? Am I smart enough? Am I too dumb? Not knowing enough? All of these things. Mental issues, psychological issues. Not really about the spiritual. It's about the neurotic, and when neurosis reigns, when the blood is allowed to just overwhelm the consciousness, the circuits. See? So mind scientists are very interested in this. That has to do with consciousness and what the function of self as limitation is in the midst of consciousness. And whether or not one is living the life of being an effect of everybody else and everything else and feeling properly diminished, see, uncertain, insecure, unaware, see, at odds with situation. You have a comment on that?
Seems like a common misconception. And a painful one.
That's self-created. So when you are troubled, you have to not so much seek, but you have to find help. You have to be willing to be helped, see, in a certain way. There's no guarantee you're going to be helped, even by the greatest of helpers. So, you may not be open enough. And it may be your lifelong agony to never be open enough to really have the job done or get it done. So,
Then with the best of help, what hope is there?
It's up to the individual. And maybe in their hopelessness, they start to make some progress. When they give up trying to find it in a certain way, outside of themselves, then maybe they can pick up a thread from within and start something of a journey. Recovery. Of what's been lost to more or less create or confirm the anxieties and the problems. The confusion, the pain, that is to say, the suffering. Who knows they are suffering? Who knows they are suffering their body, their body's image, their feelings, their memories, their painful emotions, their unhappiness, their lack of integration, lack of training, lack of discipline, lack of self-awareness. their lack of knowing better. So then it's finding the right solutions in the field. See? And coming out of your egomania, see? And intelligently make yourself vulnerable to influences, associations or whatever, that actually unravel some of your blood karma so that you can start to breathe properly. And pay off some of your debt by way of breathing properly. In the yoga sciences, they refer to these energy things, let's say potencies and processes, as winds, see, flows. Call them psychic flows. And that's breathing, in and out. That's influx, outflow. You meet the right person under the right conditions, and you start to see the outflows balance you out. It's not anything they're doing necessarily, but it may be what they're being, which is balanced. And being around the field of balance can be a balancing experience. It could be a balancement initiation into deeper balancing. It may be the path of balancement.
For those with a certain balance who are living from that and as that.
Could be attained, it could be inherited. Whatever it is, it has to be perceived as such.
Is that balance unassailable?
To whom? To whom?
An unbalanced person meets a balanced person. What happens to the balanced person?
The balanced person feels the resonance with the unbalanced person. And they see they may have a positive influence upon that person because that unbalanced person says so. So it's expressed. That means it is recognized at the level of speech and feeling. And so it is mentionable. This is not about being locked up and inside. It's not about that. See, the inner is not what's locked up inside. The inner is already breathing. See, it's a matter of getting in touch with the inner that's breathing, and we call that the spiritual inner. See, the inner spiritual function of intelligence and consciousness, see, awareness. See. And the brightness that points to. Brightness, see, lightness, not heaviness. Spiritual is never heavy. It's like love is never really painful in some way. Self-attachment is painful. Letting go is relieving yourself, giving yourself space. It means making room for growth. That's why it's so highly recommended. You have to let go of what holds you because you've agreed to be held by it. So it's like holding yourself back.
What's the difference between a perceived need or a want for spiritual progress and a sincere one?
Is that one question? Is that a multiple question?
What is sincere need?
Well, is sincere need sincere need? That's what the question is, really. Yeah, so you're asking the question, what is sincere need? What is it? Is sincere need desperate need? Is it creative need? Is it a need just to be needy? Right? Needy to need, needing neediness? Right? Self-drowning, self heaviness, unenlightened darkness, rock heavy, like selfishness. And not having the intelligence to say, no, this is just selfishness working against others. So you have to be honest with your own feelings and try and share that with your other, who might have worse or similar feelings of, let's say, insecurity, materialism, unhappiness, say, and uselessness, in a manner of speaking. Which doesn't particularly make for a good party. So then, in that case, you better take the booze out to lighten it up, because it's not going to go anywhere. See, unless you crank it open, so called, right? Force it, because then it's clinging to unhappiness. And see, ego building unhappiness. See, this is just selfishness. You need to see that. A negative inward turning. It's not a positive outflowing. And so people need to be around other people who know all about these things. See, the flows. See, and maybe bang them over the head if they need that. See, because they're so unconscious. Afraid. Shut down, and squeaking from pain, right? Psychologic pain, which means imaginary pain. Misinformed, incorrect data, pain. Self-strangulation, pain. Super stiffness, pain. It has to be undone, melted. See? Gone beyond.
What is surrender?
Openness. Vulnerability, a form of receptivity, and a form of giving away, yielding. And so you can surrender to the darkness, the forces of darkness, the agents of darkness, the pain of darkness, or you can surrender to the opposite. What's your fancy? It's a give and take universe. If you don't surrender to the water, you won't drink any. If you don't surrender to food, you won't eat any. If you don't surrender to life, you won't have any. So you need to understand that. Come in.
When one is in a situation where they may or may not recognize what they're suffering, what is surrender to someone in that situation?
Say that in English.
How does one be very careful and aware of the surrender that they may be offering.
Everybody surrenders to everybody else. As soon as you're in their company, you're surrendered. Now it depends on what the situation is actually for. And you see what you get out of it. But you're surrendered. You're vulnerable to it. You're open to it. You're sitting in a restaurant. You're surrendered. And then something happens. Yeah, because you surrendered to it. So anything could happen, and anything might happen, and maybe it should happen, because you're there. You're surrendered to this situation, then you're going on the highway, and you're surrendered to the highway, and you got trucks and cars and buses. Yes, we are surrendered to life. So, what are you talking about?
How does one be careful about, say, avoiding surrendering to narcissism or egoic
Then it's a matter of
matters?
taste. It's what meets your tastes. So, it's not like surrendering to a spiritual teacher or teachings. That's completely unique. You don't really surrender there. The force of the teacher or the situation is what opens you up. So it's not like you surrender. It's not like you do it. It happens. So it's not like the flower surrenders to the sun. So, as soon as the sun shows up, it opens. It welcomes it. It receives it. And it gains from it. It gains the light.
So then it's not something that anybody does.
Well, I mean, people can play the game. See? Because they're materialistic. And say, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to open this way and let him do this to me and whatever. But I'm not really surrendering to him because I want something. I'll do what I have to maybe get that something. So is that surrender? Is that bargaining? Sounds like a business deal here. Oh, but I took it off for you. I did this for you. I did that for you. I let my hair down for you. Now you're doing this. Hey, I'm unhappy now. Oh, you did. See, all of this garbage. See? So there's no surrender. There's just bargaining and game playing there. Giving to receive. You know, little this for that. This for that. That for this. There's no love involved in that. For this. This for that. There's no love there. There could be pleasure, pain. People who are in pain have problems with their pleasure. They got to go to their pleasure to see why they're in such pain. You use your pleasure properly, whatever that means to the individual, and there may be no pain for the moment. No pain. No pain, maybe that's pleasure, but maybe that's more pain for some. So in the relative universes, it's hard to figure out who's experiencing what because of what, see, or who. So we need to be open to sense the subtleties behind the appearances of people and their issues, their games and their BS, their fears. And only when you enter a real practice and enter a level of spiritual vulnerability or surrender to, let's say, ideas beyond your neuroses, assuming you're on the path of seeing beyond your neuroses and feeling beyond that and knowing beyond that. It would be like the yoga path where you do yoga exercises and you use certain techniques where you actually relax yourself. You know when you're you. You know when you're here. You know when you're now. See? And then you know when flux comes in to change that, throw you out of that centeredness. Relationships should be about creating an opportunity for this peaceful centeredness that we all need for our healing. And not that we all have to be tucked into bed every night, be given a baby bottle, not really. But there's a sense of inner balance. It has nothing to do with anybody else. And two people can get together and say, let us refer to our inner balance now. And if not, well, this is what I know about inner balance, and this is what I do, and because you're very uptight. See, I can feel the knots. You squeak from uptightness. I have to oil you. You're so squeaky, so uptight, see? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Some people you have to let go of because there's no help that they want. In other words, they're carrying their cross of suffering, and they have to be left alone. It's their burden. Other people are happy to negotiate that with others. And say, oh, I'm feeling this, would you do this for me? And then they feel better, and it's negotiable. Others, no. They're happy with their little dungeon. No. The word used is cocoon. See? Their own little capsule. See? Capsule of fear. Because when you get beyond that, then you feel where people are, and then they are healed. Say, hey, I feel you. I feel your pain. I know it. I relate to it. Then the person who is suffering can loosen up a little bit, maybe. They just needed a certain kind of reality resonance by medical, practitioners or psychologic services or the right friends, see, or spiritual people, psychically correct people. Make the adjustments. And so you can ask, hey, do you know you need help? Do you know what kind of help you need? Throw it out there like that. Who's suffering what here? Why? Why are we allowing ourselves to suffer so much? Question. Don't we know that we are creating our own suffering? Question. Don't we know that we are the solution to our creating of suffering? Oh yes. Okay. Solution. Being solution. What do I need to do to overcome this suffering, this heaviness, this isolation from others? See? Invulnerability. This fear of surrendering. Like you have something to surrender, you're going to what? Be less? You give something, you're going to be less? You're going to be more? Are you going to be more or less? Yeah.
You mentioned centeredness. How does one tell when they are centered? Or
you feel very good. There's no question. There's no analysis involved in it. It's not textbook nonsense. You know. You feel it. Are you good? I'm good. Okay. Are you good? No, I'm not good. Okay. How do you know what you're hearing is what you're hearing? How do you know what to believe when you hear anybody say anything? Well, you can live in a universe of distrust. Don't believe anything anybody says as being what they mean to say. Or you could just know when someone's being true. The idea is to get to the point where you're so true with you that you can be true with other peeps. And they'll tell you. If they're alive, say, you're true. And I feel you're true. And now I feel my true. No contracts, no negotiations, nothing. Just feeling the true. Comment. Yeah, you have to be able to sense darkness in others and around others. That's relative, but there's something to what is being said on that. Mm. And you have to identify it. You have to recognize it, identify it, and bring it up. Mm. Under certain conditions, you're obligated to bring it up, because what would move you to bring it up is that you're feeling the imposition of this oppressive presence of the darkness. You know when you're feeling good, when you're feeling here, you're not light and easy and happy as a lark sometimes. And when you're like done in and hardly breathing. Because of the heaviness you're around, that you've chosen to be around, and maybe you didn't choose to be around, but you happen to be around, and you don't have to be around. And it's better to say something, even if you're wrong, so that you clear your circuit. Say, well, I felt this. And say, no, not really. Oh, okay. Any of us can be wrong. But we can also be right. And that's what you want to make sure of as you move forward, is that your connection with yourself is right, say, for you, clear for you. Say, no, I felt this, I know what this is. And lady or man, you don't feel it? I got it though. Can't use that. So, there it is. Don't need that. You don't see it? Good, keep walking. Maybe you see it sometime, but it's not going to be at my expense. Or you can't see something. You don't believe what I'm feeling or experiencing. Come in. Mm-hmm. 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 So you're a magnet for darkness. You like to deal with it. You like to interpret it in terms of friends, people of interest, fascination, intellectual appearances, mysteriousness. And, you like to use the word unique. Well, darkness can be as unique could ever be, because it's about deception and self-delusion. And when you turn on the light, you see it all. You hear everything like scurrying away. It's not supposed to be seen. So you can call your friends of darkness out, in a manner of speaking. Come on. If you were weaker, they'd lay more stuff on you that you would maybe be inclined to believe, because it's the way it is. And then what would that be? Magic? Some kind of psychic influence? Or is that waking up? And what happens if you wake up? All your imaginary ties and connections disappear. They don't exist. Come in.
Yeah, sounds refreshing.
So then the question is, why do you come here? What are you gaining by coming here?
Clarity, a sense of space, and it's both a space from all the stuff, and it's a space that has nothing to do with it. It's a different level of consciousness. It's a different mode of being. It's just, simplicity. And so it's not dealing in the same currency. It's something correct, true, basic, peaceful.
Well, I mean, if you can perceive what healing is for you, then that's what it is for you. When it comes to the music, here, it's healing for very few, and it is reacted to by many people because they don't understand the language. They don't know that this is actually a language. See, this music is a code. Yeah. And very few people understand it or are in proper resonance with it. And so if you are moving in the direction where you want to become more the healing solution, then you have to stand up to what you cognize and perceive as darkness, and what you know it is that's holding you back. Because if it's holding you back, it's holding your music, it holds everything back. It's holding you as an entire reality back. See? And I say this to all people, know who's holding you back and know who's advancing you. Mm-hmm. So, supporting your forward motion and your upward motion. You're rising. Mm-hmm. And if you are, as many are, maybe unfortunately so, involved in sexual relations with people who are really dubious in a certain way, and you're not really connected, you don't really agree in many ways. And so there's this offness, but then you have the sexual connection, which becomes part of a huge tension. Because they're not really together. They're like supposed to be, but it's not. You have that in many marriages. And so they use sex then to have pleasure and maybe have moments of release, but it doesn't change the individual structure at all. Doesn't change the individual's karma at all. Doesn't change the individual's mind or the individual's relationship to whatever soul is in that case. Yeah. So sex then is no solution apart from momentary physical release, if that even. And that's at the animal level for the most part. Sometimes it's more deeply psychic for some. But it doesn't make a relationship, doesn't make a marriage, and so it's not the solution. It's a complication. People don't know that it is a complication already. It's a confusion already. See, peculiar mixing already of what influences. See, for what? Solving what? Or complicating what?
Yeah, what are people using sex for?
Cement. Using it as cement. Cementing themselves to other selves. But the question is, for what purpose? Yeah. Is it for companionship, maybe? That's not true. When people say that, I just need someone to love. Yeah, it could be anybody. Just need someone to love. All right? Yeah. All right. That's not true either. No. Who's saying that? See? The body speaking? Is it the emotion speaking? Is it the heart speaking? Is it the ego speaking? Is it the mental speaking? Who's speaking that? The whole notion that I brought up several years ago about the heart is the universe. It's like native wisdom. You're going out seeking all these other things because you don't know the wholeness of yourself. You don't know the completeness of yourself. I don't mean the ego self, but just your being. So maybe you are miseducated, misinformed, your data is incorrect, and so you're going out, complicating your life unconsciously. And I can't say it enough with all the people that have come to me with these so-called problems. When I recommend a solution, just get off the sex for a while. Get off the confusion, the mixing. Get off that. Get off of this. Get out of the selfishness of that particular karma and see what happens. Don't believe what I'm saying. See what happens. There's clarification all the time. With very little exception. The body reintegrates. The chakras realign themselves. And clarity of a unique sort starts to emerge. The circuitry is not overwhelmed by sexual emotional disturbance. Or orgasmic exhaustion, same thing. So the neuroses levels come down. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Who knows?
I guess that would depend on what the person is setting out to do.
Doesn't matter what they're setting out to do. Really. The confusion is there. Then you have to make the most of what's left of you after that's over. See? Yeah, you have to figure out what's left. Sometimes it's on the woman's side, sometimes it's on the other person's side. You know, one side or the other. Could be woman to woman, could be woman to man, man to man, whatever. Whatever your karma is, whatever your debt is, see, in the field of compromise, because it's all compromise. Don't call it marriage, it's just compromise, right? I call it marriage, yeah, compromise. An agreed upon compromise, right? An okay compromise. Do you reach your wholeness, your fullness, by way of that arrangement or not? Who knows? Life can be more comfortable, more easy, more convenient because of the arrangement. For how long? Is that heart is the universe? Don't know that. Is the heart awakening by the universe, as the universe? Don't know that. And does it need the, let's say, the suffocation of relationship? Does it need it? Really? Sometimes maybe it's perfect. Other times it's like, what's going on here? You need space for happiness and you need space for freedom. In their ultimate sense, they are words that represent space. Wisdom, space. Happiness, space. Joy is space. Peaceful, space. Love, space. Universe, heart. See, so this conversation is way before spiritual practice. Although it can happen right in the middle of spiritual practice, depending on your karma. And by karma, I mean the complications. You have good karma? Great, no problem. So, feeling stuck because you're too close to somebody is a problem. That's a complication. Because under those circumstances, you can never come to know who you are and what your potential is. Real potential, because you're not heart to the universe. You're not universe to heart. You're self to other, other to self. It could be great, and you might be able to help each other to get to that place, where the heart is the universe, and that's the real between you. See, But you need your freedom to be you, whatever that is. And we don't just mean it as an ego machine, as a breathing being who needs to feel its own peace, not its suffering because of codependency, which then is a bizarre arrangement for the sake of the soul, which is not here to suffer, unless it's dumb or numb. It can't see or hear or feel or know for itself, and of course that's an issue. Comment. One has to consider, in terms of practice, is one free enough to practice? Am I allowed to be practicing? Right? In other words, who wants you to practice, who doesn't want you to practice, and those are forces for and against the process, psychically. Not that you should care about it one way or other, but could be a factor for some. When you care about what other people care about, regarding what you do or what you don't do, you're a prisoner. Come in.
Yeah, it's bad news.
It could be good news. It might be good news to even know about it, and then go to, well, it's great to know this, but it's bad news.
Well,
I'm happy to know my bad news.
One of the biggest hurdles in many cases seems to be actually recognizing that there's something that urgently needs to be known about a situation, and then knowing it.
Well, you need to even go deeper, so you say, no, it is not my purpose to create dumb situations. Or be dragged into, or pulled into, or chumped into dark situations. See? And you can make an agreement with yourself and your karma that way. See? No BS relations, period. No funny, phony relations, period. Comment.
Good deal. When a bad situation is recognized, is the process of unplugging a clean one?
If you're capable of it, yeah, you can disconnect from something that's not going a certain way. Sometimes it's better to do it that way. Let it go. Drop it. Not everything has to be negotiated to somebody else's liking. When you know you're done with something, it's time for you to take up and leave. And not worry, not turn back, if that's what you have to do. Otherwise, it just keeps dragging and dragging and dragging on. You hear from the other party, and you're stuck in the same quagmire. See? Which is really the other person. That's the quagmire. It's not really what's happening, but that is the quagmire. Because that's their reality, is to be quagmired. See? In the Dharma, let's say it's more selfishness, buried in selfishness. Doesn't really care about anybody else. Only cares about itself. Come in. Obvious. Pop, there goes. Au revoir. My chérie, au revoir. Come in.
When is something done?
When it's really done. When it's already done. When it's been done already before. So something's done before it's done. You need to know when that is. So it's done because it was already done. Then you're talking about the result of the cause. Right? The effect and the cause. It's already. And there you have it. It's done because it was done before. And you come to terms with it in time. And sometimes you're perceptive and you see it's already done when you meet the person. You say, I don't know how long this is going to last, but I know it's already done. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's already done, but I'm going to have fun. Because it's already done, maybe I can get a little fun in, and then, go my way and let it go when the time comes. This is limited. It's only going to go so far. Some people are that perceptive. So, and then they jump in for that. Don't understand what it means, because it's not practice. It's the social interactions. Social neuroses. Psychoneurotic stuff. Oh, this is going nowhere, but I'm going to go with it nowhere, and then I'm going to be somewhere afterwards. I hope it's a good place. I don't know, maybe it'll be a worse place.
So if you show up in a situation or a person that is perceived, it's already done.
It's actually already done. Everyone you perceive is already done.
Then is it already participated in as well?
Already what?
Participated in. You mentioned just jumping in because it's already done and have some fun.
Well, already done is a phrase. It's a figure of speech. It's already done. Come on. You have to figure out on what end of the spectrum it is already done for you. See? Not everything is done the same way. So people have first meetings, first encounters, right? And they know it's already done. It's only going to go just so far. And since people are self-addicted, right? They want to see how far it can go and how much they can get away with. Right? Well, gain. And so then you have all these other self-building programs that further complicate what it is as a practitioner you want to simplify and get away from.
And so seeing something's already done is the choice to not even start?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You hear, I hear, maybe you can hear too. People say, when I met my husband, I know my wife, I already knew we had something going on before. And, we already knew each other in a certain way, and it sounds very promising, very romantic, and, even occultic. So we're doing it again. Maybe better this time. Then it's a matter of how much your ego wants to ride out of that. So they say intuition, perhaps, at the beginning. Which could be a simplification or a complication, depending on what it is you're desiring that you feel you need to indulge. So then we can say, well, maybe it's all about the desire. Desire is the culprit. Because you have desire, and you have to follow your desire. And go into all of its dark spaces, because desire likes dark spaces. Come on.
Yeah, I wonder whether going through life not engaging where one, I guess, doesn't need to, Well, that seems rather
Well,
simple.
some things will show up or arise that seem to be very clearly, parallel to your reality. Then the parallel reality sometimes, just for conversation's sake, might be, less dangerous. Similar kinds of music, similar kinds of ideas, similar kinds of philosophies, similar, feelings and notions about creativity and science or medicine. But this is not from the view of practice. This is really way before practice. This is like still in school. And better handled in school when you get out. Then you start tripping all over yourself, stumbling into relations and being kicked out of relations as a way of life. I'm not sure about that. So when you get to, let's say, the Dharma, if we can call it the Dharma, and let's say the path of wisdom, then you have an opportunity to see the whole thing from the inside out. And you are able then to see damage control and damage creation, and why and how. Mind creates and self creates all kinds of effects, high and low, and so on, so forth. And then you can start determining from a very real place inside yourself, well, this is not good. And that's not. And this will create this. There's a certainty about that. That means you enter a certain sense of maybe appreciation of what could be called lawfulness at the karmic level. What is lawful? And neither good nor bad, but creating results. You see, I understand. I see the process. And if you're involved then on the wisdom path and wanting to go deeper, then the idea, of course, is to have a realization of wisdom. Have a wisdom realization. Come out at the other end of your self-struggle in the spirit and in the field of wisdom. Peace. At that point, you know what creates peace. You know how it's created. Why? And so you abide by that.
Sounds good. What's the process of, making mistakes and then of forgiveness?
What's the process of making mistakes and then forgiving yourself
Well,
for it?
if you could phrase that
You should be
better.
happy. You should be happy. You can forgive yourself for things that might be unforgivable. Yeah, it's all about the individual and what they create and whether or not they can live with it. In the way that it shows up. The basis for what's happening here is really more creative. It's not about the spiritual as being other than creative. The spiritual is the creative, in a sense. The super creative. That means you have in you the intelligence, or anybody, and everybody has the intelligence if you can access it. See, to understand exactly what it is you need to do, as well as understand why you weren't able to do it before. This is what I was talking about earlier. When you enter the wisdom works, then you can see what it is. Once you start seeing what the wisdom works are in terms of what is created, then you understand it. So your understanding then is the forgiveness, in a manner of speaking. You understand why you created the mess you created, or the greatness you created. and it's already forgiven. It's already gone. There's no one there who needs to be forgiven for anything. But you are obligated to create what you know is right and good to do, say, for yourself or for others. So you're not working out of, let's say, adolescent ignorance. Well, you're a middle-aged person, right? Pushing middle age. Making dumb mistakes, perhaps. No, you need to find the wisdom and stick with the wisdom. Say, put it into practice. Otherwise, you're going around in circles. You're lost with everybody else going around in circles. Yeah? You're not knowing any better. But to spin around and spin around. Unnecessarily. They don't even know it's unnecessarily. They feel, well, it's necessary to go through this, right? Forever? Without a change or a stop point? Says who? Comment.
Yeah, stop is good.
Hmm?
A stop when it's urgently needed feels very good.
It's either stop or be stopped.